There's a moment, quiet, ordinary, almost invisible, when a human being stops being fully human. It doesn't look like madness. It doesn't look like cruelty. It doesn't even look like ignorance. It looks like certainty. It looks like a confident voice repeating a sentence they never examined. It looks like a smile while sharing something that harms others because they swear it's for the greater good. It looks like a comment section full of people who sound awake but move like sleepwalkers. And if you're honest, painfully honest, this isn't just out there. You've felt it too. That strange comfort of letting the crowd think for you. That relief of choosing a side so you never have to face complexity again. That tiny thrill of being right without having to be true. What if I told you that this is what Bonhoeffer meant by stupidity? Not low IQ, not lack of education, but something darker. A moral and psychological surrender where a person hands over their inner freedom and calls it common sense. And here's the part you were never meant to hear. The most dangerous form of stupidity isn't in the fools. It's in the good people who have stopped thinking. Because evil knows it's evil sometimes. Evil hides. Evil hesitates. Evil has to defend itself. But stupidity believes it's saving the world. And that makes it unstoppable. Let me show you why. In 1961, Stanley Milgram ran his infamous obedience experiment at Yale. Ordinary participants were told to administer electric shocks to a stranger in another room. They heard screams, they heard begging, they heard silence. And still, 65% went all the way to what they believed was a lethal shock. These weren't sadists. They weren't monsters. They were accountants, teachers, parents, students, normal people who temporarily surrendered the burden of independent moral judgment. They didn't become evil. They became obedient. And Bonhoeffer, decades earlier, saw that transformation happen to an entire nation, real time, on the streets of Germany. He watched educated, cultured, religious people who read poetry and played piano, support policies and leaders that contradicted everything they claimed to believe, not because they suddenly became demonic, but because something inside them went quiet. The inner voice that asks, is this true? The inner break that says, wait, does this make sense? The inner courage that whispers, even if everyone agrees, I might still be wrong. Bonhoeffer watched that voice get replaced by something else, slogans, catchphrases, group identity. And he wrote, from prison, one of the most chilling lines in modern thought. Against stupidity, we are defenseless. Not against evil, not against hatred, not even against violence. Against stupidity. Because violence can be resisted, hatred can be exposed. Even evil has limits. But functional stupidity that feels righteous, doesn't break when you push it. It hardens. So, before we go deeper, I need to ask you something uncomfortable. Have you ever believed something? Mostly because the people around you believed it too? Not because you proved it, not because you examined it, but because disagreeing would have cost you something. Belonging, peace, identity, friends, status. Keep that question in your chest because it's going to explain more about your life than you expect. Dietrich Bonhoeffer wasn't a philosopher in an ivory tower. He was a German Lutheran pastor, born in 1906, raised in an intensely intellectual environment. His father was a prominent psychiatrist and neurologist. Bonhoeffer had every reason to trust education, reason, and moral discourse. Then he watched an entire society, many of them intelligent and civilized, slide into mass irrationality. And he realized something that still terrifies anyone who thinks deeply about human nature. Stupidity is not primarily an individual defect. It is a social phenomenon. A person alone can be thoughtful. A person in a crowd can become an instrument. And the crowd doesn't even have to be physical. A movement, a party, a side, a timeline, an algorithm. The new crowd fits in your pocket. Plato warned about this in a way we still don't take seriously. In the allegory of the cave, people are chained, watching shadows on a wall, mistaking them for reality. The tragedy isn't just that they're deceived, it's that when one person escapes and comes back to tell the truth, the others don't celebrate. They get angry. Because the truth doesn't just challenge their beliefs, it threatens their identity. Bonhoeffer saw the same thing. When a person has surrendered their thinking to the group, they become strangely immune to reason. Not because they're too stupid to understand, but because understanding would require them to betray the thing that makes them feel safe. So what is stupidity really, in Bonhoeffer's sense? It's the point where a human being becomes programmable. He describes encountering people who don't respond like individuals anymore because their speech is filled with slogans, catchwords, borrowed certainty. You aren't speaking to them, you're speaking to whatever has taken possession of them. And that possession can wear many masks: patriotism, religion, justice, tradition, science, freedom, morality, common sense. Sometimes it even wears the mask of rebellion, because the point is not what the slogan is, the point is the surrender. And here's the twist that makes this theory terrifying. Stupidity often feels like virtue. It feels like loyalty. It feels like strength. It feels like clarity. And clarity is addictive in a confusing world. Nietzsche called this tendency the pull of the herd, the comfort of moving with the group so you never have to stand alone in uncertainty. The herd doesn't just give you opinions, it gives you a self. A ready-made identity that answers the hardest questions instantly. Who are we? Who are they? What do we believe? What do we hate? What do we never question? And once you accept that identity, thinking becomes dangerous because thinking might lead you somewhere the herd cannot follow. So you stop, not all at once, just little by little. You stop reading the opposing argument. You stop checking the source. You stop asking, what if I'm wrong? You stop listening for nuance. And then one day, you wake up and you're not really thinking anymore. You're reacting. You're repeating. You're defending. This is why Bonhoeffer said force doesn't work. You can't beat stupidity out of someone because stupidity, in this form, is protected by the person's need to belong. If you attack their belief, you attack their tribe. If you attack their tribe, you attack their identity. If you attack their identity, you become an enemy. And enemies don't deserve to be listened to. This is how an ordinary mind becomes a locked room. Modern psychology gave names to what Bonhoeffer witnessed. Leon Festinger called it cognitive dissonance. When new information threatens our beliefs, it creates discomfort. So we relieve that discomfort not by changing our minds, but by rejecting the information. Solomon Asch showed how conformity works. Put someone in a group giving obviously wrong answers, and many people will go along, even while their eyes see the truth. They don't conform because they're blind. They conform because being alone feels like danger. And your brain is ancient. Your nervous system still thinks exile equals death, so it chooses the crowd. But Bonhoeffer went further than psychology experiments. He suggested something almost spiritual in its horror. Stupidity is not just a mistake. It is a temptation to trade inner freedom for social comfort. And when enough people take that trade, entire societies become capable of things they would have sworn were impossible. Think about the Salem witch trials, not driven by cartoon villains, driven by neighbors, church-going people who sincerely believed they were protecting their community. Think about the Red Scare, people ruining lives not because they loved destruction, but because they feared being the next target. Stupidity doesn't need a monster. It only needs pressure, because pressure turns people into shortcuts. And now we arrive at the modern nightmare Bonhoeffer didn't live to see. We have built systems that profit from intellectual surrender. Social media doesn't make money when you think slowly. It makes money when you react fast. When you're outraged, when you're terrified, when you feel superior, when you feel attacked, when you feel certain. Certainty is engagement. Nuance is a scrolling risk. And that means the architecture of modern attention quietly trains you into the exact state Bonhoeffer feared: a person who is not independent, a person whose inner life is outsourced, a person possessed by what everyone is saying. And if you think you're immune because you're smart, that's the trap, because intelligence can become a weapon for stupidity. A smart person can rationalize almost anything. A smart person can build elegant arguments for whatever their tribe demands. A smart person can use logic the way a lawyer uses language, not to find truth, but to win. That's why you can find brilliant minds endorsing absurdities. Not because they can't think, but because they've decided not to. Or rather, they've let the group decide for them. Machiavelli understood something similarly cold. Power doesn't always need to crush people. It can simply shape incentives so people crush themselves. If the cost of independent thought is social punishment, career loss, ridicule, isolation, most people will choose comfort, and then they'll call that choice morality. Now let me make this personal, because it has to become personal, or it stays entertainment. There is a version of you that wants truth, and there is a version of you that wants relief. Relief from uncertainty, relief from complexity, relief from the exhausting work of forming your own mind. And the world is getting better every year at offering you relief. Here, take this headline. Here, take this clip. Here, take this expert. Here, take this simplified villain. Here, take this simplified hero. Here, take this side. And if you take it, you don't have to suffer the hardest human burden, thinking for yourself. Bonhoeffer called the alternative costly grace, not cheap grace, the kind that lets you feel moral without sacrifice. Costly grace is truth that cost you something. It cost you the comfort of easy answers. It cost you the applause of the crowd. It cost you the warmth of belonging when belonging requires blindness. Because sometimes the only way to remain human is to stand alone for a moment. So how do we fight back? Not with arrogance. Arrogance is just another form of possession, another way of saying, I'm above the herd. The antidote begins with something quieter, intellectual humility, the ability to say, with full dignity, I might be wrong. I don't know. I need time. I need to check. That sounds small, but in an attention economy that rewards instant certainty, those words are rebellion. Here are a few practices, simple but psychologically violent against the machinery that wants to think for you. First, create intellectual friction. Pick one belief you hold strongly and read the best argument against it. Not a caricature, not a straw man, the best version. If your belief is true, it will survive the pressure. Second, slow your sharing. Before you repost, pause. Ask, is this true, or does it just feel satisfying? Satisfaction is not evidence. Outrage is not proof. Third, practice disobedience to the algorithm. Your feed is not reality. It is a mirror trained on your emotions. If you only consume what confirms you, you don't become informed. You become reinforced. Fourth, rebuild your relationship with discomfort. Discomfort is often the feeling of your mind expanding. The herd teaches you that discomfort is danger. But discomfort can also be growth. And then there's the hardest one. Choose truth over belonging when you must. Not always, not dramatically, not performatively. Just when it matters. Because Bonhoeffer's final challenge was not philosophical. It was existential. He paid for it. He was executed on April 9, 1945, weeks before the end of the war, because he refused to surrender his moral independence. And whether you agree with every detail of his life or not, his warning remains. When people stop thinking independently, they stop being fully human. They become tools, and the most terrifying part is how good it feels to become one. Because thinking is tiring. Thinking is lonely. Thinking makes you unpopular sometimes. The surrender feels like freedom. Finally, your nervous system says, I don't have to carry this alone, but you do. You do have to carry it. That's what it means to be a person. So let me leave you with an image, one you won't like, but you might need. Imagine two doors. Behind the first door is comfort, a tribe, certainty, a life where you always know who the enemy is, a life where you're always right. Behind the second door is something colder, the freedom to think, the courage to doubt, the willingness to stand fast when everyone around you is chanting. Bonhoeffer asked, who stands fast? Not who is smartest, not who is most educated, not who is most confident, who stands fast when the crowd becomes a current pulling your mind downstream. And here's the final uncomfortable truth. You don't discover who you are in your opinions. You discover who you are in the moment your opinions are tested by fear. So the question isn't, are there stupid people in the world? The real question is, where in your life have you traded truth for comfort and called it wisdom? And if you could find that place, if you could name it, would you have the courage to think again?